Hello and welcome to Soft Serve. My name is Mads Williams and I am a guide to female sensual energy. Oh, I am having a day. I am on day 1 of my bleed and it hurts and I don't always have painful periods. So I thought, what better way to dive right in than to talk about how sexual energy can actually be used as a healing tool and in real time what I'm doing, but also some really pivotal moments that jump out at me when I think about how this practice has actually brought about catharsis and movement and spiritual progression in my life. So I caught up with the Peaches yesterday, my alumni from the spring soft serve portal from earlier in the year. And it's so fulfilling and rewarding to the system to be in community with those women. But one of them in particular is trained in astrology. And I was telling her about something that was being activated in my chart. And she said, "Oh, Mads, like that's a really karmic experience you're having right now." So it caused me to go on this deep dive of research and essentially realize that I'm in this, what astrologically you would call a healing crisis. And I'm sure we can relate in many areas. It's this idea that before things get better, they get worse. And actually, it's a real purging. So it can feel like a regression. It can feel like you're returning to places you've been and that's never going to get better and never going to improve. And it's just really uncomfortable. But usually it's because you're breaking down to break through. So that's where I'm at emotionally. So there's been lots going on. And that, with any emotional tension can like absolutely get to the head and then become overthinking. And what I love being able to do is move it through my body sexually, but I haven't necessarily been prioritizing that because it's felt just honestly quite overwhelming. And so my little kid has been more present rather than my woman. And I do think that your little kid, when you're doing a lot of solo practice, can be really present sexually as well. That's what's so beautiful about this work is that it's removing it from stigma or the genitals or this idea of sex as something really adult. And actually, it's returning it to that idea of spirituality and sacredness so that it can really be a gift to your little wounded child as well. But for that to be present, your woman kind of needs to walk you to bed. You need to actually commit to it or show up. So that's what I've done today. I specifically invested in a black splash blanket so that I could continue moving through my practice when I was bleeding, so that I could explore things like anal play, so that nothing was ever too messy or there was never really a reason why I couldn't practice something I was drawn to on that day. And I think that's really my philosophy for a lot of things, especially being a woman. Where have we been made to feel too messy, too big, too extra, blah, blah, blah? I had a conversation with a family member this week, and the default response was, "Oh, but are they okay with your woo?" And I just thought, oh my gosh, are we joking? Like, if it wasn't woo, it would be something else, but that's just who I am. So that question is actually, are they accepting of you? And I'm just a bit fatigued of that. I'm fatigued of that rhetoric because we need to be able to make space for everyone to be as fucking freaky as they are. I'm bored. I'm bored of us all trying to fit into small spaces. Can we just be fucking loud and ourselves? So that's where I'm at. I'm tired. And I took that version of me to my black splash blanket today, full on bleeding, because the tension in my body was so stiff and so tight and inflamed. And actually, I just knew it was all the things that I haven't not even said, but felt. All that pain, all the times you feel like you're not accepted or not loved or not enough or too much or whatever. It's just deeply circulating for me at the moment. And it also feels, it's like not even connected to anyone, which is kind of cool. now that I've moved past that. It's like I can feel that it's literally just circling in my system like an old, outdated narrative. Feels very connected to my family narratives, but it's mine. Like it's in my cells, it's in my DNA. And maybe there were some mirrors on the outside world that like hit the button originally, but it truly, it could be anyone hitting that button. Like they're still my shit to circulate and purge. So that's what I did. I took my coconut oil out and I really just like felt into the parts of my body that were tense. I was really checking in with my yoni and she really didn't want me inside. It was like going against the center or pull of gravity. She wanted to release. So, in that tending to my body and letting my muscles experience of tension, I just imagined everything pouring out of my vagina, everything like pulling a plug, everything just going down the drain, going down the drain, going down the drain. And eventually, once I really got into all the knots around my hip and got into all the knots around my stomach, and then spent a lot of time tending to the outside of my yoni and to my labia and just really gently stroking my clit. She really didn't want any orgasm or stimulation. She just wanted tending to. Eventually, she felt softened and surrendered enough to let me in. And then it felt like a really natural progression to activate squirting, just to literally, again, continue that purge. So, this is one of those examples of that I'm not in there for pleasure. I'm in there for relief and it does feel good, but the focus is really talking to myself, talking to the part of me that's really hurt, talking to the little kid, just like being so present to every single inch of my body, every millimeter even of the inside of my vagina to see what is she storing, what is she saying. And from there, I know personally the orgasm does really shift pain. So when I felt like I had been gentle enough and spent enough time actually looking after myself, that is when I did finish with a clitoral orgasm, because I can really then activate my breath. I can circulate that. I can borrow that energy from my genitals and circulate it up through my body. So I feel really resourced and connected to source. So I do then like switch gear and like use it as a way to almost like the opposite of releasing, where I like supercharge up with it and like let that almost like a Pokemon thing going off, where it's like an explosion of healing sexual energy through my body. So when your practice is yours, you get to really custom it. Like there were parts of this practice, if anyone's ever worked with healers or done shamanic work or they do their own healing work, often when you're moving things through the body, you might have, might feel like you need to do some really deep, or almost when you pierce your lips together and whistle out air, or you might find that you're burping a lot or crying. All of those are spiritual examples of releasing. So I also found that was really present. I'd had a lot of stuck throat chakra sensations, not being able to release tears when I'd wanted to. So I found myself during this practice really burping, like really purging out what's not mine. And another reason I love it, because for me, sex is no longer about being performative or sexy. I have no interest in being this fucking bombshell turn on if it isn't real. And so even in my practice with myself, that freedom to actually let what wants to come out, it's no use in our body. It's literally torturing us in our body. So when you have this space to get really literally, the word I heard was demonic. It's like whatever shape you need to take, whatever expression you need to make, whatever release needs to come, let it come, let it out. Take the fucking lid off, take the plug out, be big. Theme of the episode. Okay, so there's our graphic intro that I wasn't expecting to share with you in such detail, but voila, we are who we are. So the examples that were circling for me before actually this became a healing crisis I needed to return to. This topic came through to me last week and it felt really light and really fun and very Marvin Gaye. And suddenly, all of a sudden, it's like, it's first day of bleed and it's angry and it's Sinead O'Connor vibes. But we love being a woman. We love the cyclical nature. So I've had a couple of examples where it's really this sexual practice has just fucking cracked me open or changed the game. And one of those experiences came from my first ever heartgasm. So, when I'm working with sexual energy, I'm really bringing it from my yoni up through my body. And a lot of the time, I just get out of the way and I let it go to where it needs to go. So, there was this one experience where that was happening and it hit my heart in such intensity and it felt like this explosion of heat and love and pleasure. And it rippled through my whole chest and my whole body. And then I had this experience walking around that week where I felt like for the first time that I had an open heart, that I had the ability to actually feel properly, that everything was quite raw, but in a really beautiful way. Maybe not raw, it was vibrant. Everything had been turned up. And it felt like that gasm had blown off the walls for all the ways I'd had to protect myself around love in the past. And so that was pivotal. That was so big in the love I can give, in the love I can receive, in the way that I am present in my sexual practices with partners. So orgasms can take place in all types of way. And what I love is that you don't need to know where your sexual energy is going or how it's going to heal you. But when you unleash it and you work with it, it will find it itself. It will find the route to get there. It will find the place that needs attention and it will explode like a firework. Recently, I had an experience with someone where I was doing something I hadn't done before. And sometimes that can cause panic in my system for a couple of reasons. When I think about my human design, my personality profile is all about needing to feel like an expert, to feel safe, wanting control, wanting the information. This part of my personality profile, which is very strong, doesn't like not knowing. And then I have this other part of my personality that's desperate to go on the roller coaster of life. So they can often be at odds with each other, but I have to really tend to that part of me that wants to pull the handbrake up or say no or not engage because she's scared or she doesn't feel well enough equipped. And one of my big overriding themes from my childhood is this very basic story that probably wouldn't have impacted many other people the way it did me. But when I started a new school, I couldn't read and write, and everyone in the class knew how to. And I think on reflection, the fact that communication and writing and speaking is so significant to me in my adult life and my passion and career and all the things. I guess it makes sense that it had this heightened weight. But my read on it as a child was that everyone panicked and that I was made to feel, or the little kid in me felt like I was wrong. And I got sent to speech pathologists and tutors and all the likes and the works. And it just felt like this really big deal. And so I was doing something sexually with someone the other day, and there can be that tendency when I don't know for something to feel like a big deal. And especially you add the fact that this is now my line of work. So my human brain can add up layers of shame like, oh, well, you haven't done that yet. And you're supposed to be the sex girl or blah, 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 blah. How embarrassing because you have to show your vulnerability that you haven't done that. But also, I hope to be exploring new things sexually forever. And I hope to be exploring new things with different people because that's the beauty of being in a position where you haven't, consciously committed to one person. There is the room for true exploration. And again, please let me stress, I hope to have that if I'm with one person as well. I think that there is so much room. It's what Esther Perel says. Some people have 10 relationships in their life or more. And for a lot of people, that's with the same person. In that evolution of self, there's always room for new depths and new connection and new experiences. But my point is that I was exploring something with somebody outside of myself. I hadn't done it before. I'm the sex girl. That voice of shame can get really loud if I let it, or in the past not necessarily presently, but I had this like really beautiful moment where the person I was with just said, just relax. Like, I've got this. I've got us. And it was so nice. It was so nice to be given like really clear, calm instructions. And I couldn't stop thinking about it all week because it made me feel or think of when I was a little kid. And if everyone had just said, that's fine, just breathe. Like, we're going to work through this reading and writing. It's not a big deal. You've got this. I would have gone into that experience and most likely the rest of my life so differently. And so that one sexual experience is almost like gone back in time and healed that version of me that needed that instead of whatever the fuck happened. And I'm feeling, I can hear how aggressive I sound towards my childhood. It was a beautiful childhood. My parents were beautiful in their raising of me. These are all the things that my subconscious has latched onto. So there's no point attaching blame outside of me. Like, this is literally my soul's journey. This is my hero journey. This is mine to work through. But I'm also not going to suppress the anger because anger is what's coming up. And either the adult version of me needs to be angry or that little kid version of me needs someone to be angry on her behalf before I can get to the actual process of moving through it. This is why we don't spiritually bypass. We let our feelings be present. We just don't need to project them onto anyone else. It's all for us, our learning, us to kind of get it out of our system so we are having a a less triggered, more present reaction or experience of our actual life. So I just wanted to point out how sexual experiences can bring healing to themes that are present. And when you're curious and doing the connecting of the dots, you can apply it to lots of different aspects of your life. Or in this case, I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So you might not even have to be curious. It might just keep coming through as a real clarity of where the healing is taking place. The last experience I wanted to share on is a bit of a journey. I hadn't been with anyone for a few months and I had started dating again. And I'd gone on this date with a really nice, beautiful man. He was not my type at all. I joked with my sister that he was totally her type. And if anyone has a sister who's completely the opposite of you, you'll understand how that therefore was just the completely wrong fit for me. He was really beautiful, slightly misleading, slightly old profile photos in the works. He didn't necessarily look like the surfer man I thought I was catching up with. He was much more like business bro banker style, but that's fine. He was beautiful. And in the disappointment of wanting dirty, hot sex, that's what I thought I was craving. I remember catching up with my girlfriends and saying the sentence over and over again. I just want someone to hit my cervix. I just want someone to fuck the shit out of my cervix. And it's only been later in this sexual journey that I've reflected on how interesting a concept that was. I definitely had my formative sexual experiences were with a partner who was beautifully well endowed. So my cervix would have absolutely been activated on the regular as my foundational sexual wiring, perhaps. But I'd never really thought of the cervix. I couldn't have even really told you what it looked like, what it felt like. I obviously knew the sensation of it being hit and therefore that it was at the edge or the top of my vagina. But again, it was just a really unthought through craving and desire. And I then manifested my short-term lover. And I remember this one moment where he was really hitting it. And I was so turned on by the concept of this man, but we hadn't really established that much sexual safety in reality. And I remember saying to him, I might need you to stop. And I don't think I actually wanted him to, but that was the intensity of it. And in coming to know all about the cervix, it's like one of the most sensitive parts of the vagina. It's such a spiritual gate for a woman. It is this connection to the other realm, one that we access internally, but also that we birth through and we bleed through. It is really mystical in that sense. And so for it to really be opened and surrendered, there needs to be a lot of trust there for that to become pleasurable. So it was really just beautifully educational in terms of how does that feel when someone's inside you that perhaps hasn't earned the right to be there in that way. And I don't mean that on a consent human level. I mean really when I'm thinking of it from like a soul to soul, or how much am I actually open to you versus how much does my casual sex brain think this is okay. So I'm kind of talking on that next tier, which is now what I'm operating at, but at the time absolutely wasn't, and I hadn't gotten into this work. And a lot of us have so much stored memory in our body from having sex from that place. And that is not to shame that. That is just to explain why most of us as women have beautiful healing that takes place when we get to release what our bodies remembered as unwanted or not completely invited penetration or activity. So this happened. It was all like truly, it was fine. And I remember going back to texting this person, and we always had really sexual communications. And I said something like, and I would have been saying it from my slightly performative, I know this will turn you on because you're so big and you love hearing about how big your cock is and how much I love your cock and blah, 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 blah. I remember saying something like, that was so intense, I thought I'd need you to stop. And he wrote back and said, I wasn't going to though. And again, I am so aware that that was said in this energy of, yeah, because I was fucking you and you were mine. And it was said in a sexual charge, and it was supposed to be flirtatious and foreplay. And if I had been completely open to that man, that would have turned me on so much. But I remember getting that message and being like, oh, I don't like that. Actually, I need to be with a man that says, of course, if you need to stop, we stop. And this is before I had all my language. This is before I know the difference between keep going because I need you to burst me open versus no, I'm actually needing a pause. All that nuance is something I'm so deeply in touch with now. But at the time, it was just things I was starting to be aware of. I hadn't been drinking for a year or so. So I was having really new sexual experiences completely sober. I was piecing it all together and taking notice of how my body reacted at different times. So that's just to paint the picture. And they say as well with the cervix that it can store a lot of ancestral stories because I imagine it is so deeply embedded in our mystical system of womb and new life, and that we pass through our mother's cervix as our first gateway into the world. And so it makes sense to me that from the feminine line that we carry that through from our great, 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 great maternal grandmothers. So there was an evening where I decided I really wanted to focus on the cervix, almost to see what was there. And the cervix does not want to be rushed. It is absolutely not like the clitoris. It really needs the softening. And some people, it might even take years. It's definitely something that I would like to prioritize more. It's not always my focus, and probably because she does need more tending to and I'm impatient, which is even more reason to spend quality time with her. But I was really going slow, warming up my yoni, and I had my glass dildo out. And I probably had a good 30 to 40 minutes where I was just really letting my dildo hit her. And in that, I was breathing and opening up to it and relaxing into her and letting what wanted to be present be present. And I hit upon literally like if you were mining gold and you would hit the nugget, like probably 40 minutes in, I hit on this deep grief, and I had this massive amount of tears come through, like absolutely sobbing. And it was all connected to this one experience and this man. And it was like she had been storing it. And so I had to release the fact that I felt like he'd been somewhere I hadn't wanted him to be before I was ready. I had to release that I felt like he hadn't heard my no. Then I had to release that I felt like that he had rejected me when he was really important to me. He was one of the first men that actually felt like he chose me for all of me. So there was that deep grief that came through about losing someone that I missed having that feeling. And around that time, I had a lot of creative projects happening and a lot of magic. And that wasn't present in my current reality when I was doing this cervical work. So even grieving that life looked different, grieving my relationships with my creative collaborators, grieving that that project wasn't real and present in my life at this moment. So I let myself sob. I let myself sob, and I kept moving through activating the cervix, letting it come. And when I felt sufficiently finished, I just held myself in a little ball and cried and cried and cried and cried. And I really do believe tears, I've talked about this a lot, but tears or sexual fluids or ejaculation are a transmutation, are an ability to actually up level into a new version of self and a new stage and and really an invitation into a new chapter. So your sexual journey is going to be different. There will certainly be different stories, and there might be different parts of the yoni that have remembered experiences or family history or all the works. But it's really fucking potent work. When I do talk about it as being work, it's because you can use it. You can use it as a tool. You can use it instead of seeing a healer. You can use it in your relationships to unlock things. Like, imagine if that man became my lover and boyfriend, but my body had stored that one memory of him overriding my no. That could show up every fucking time we were intimate if it was left unchecked. This is why I nerd out on it so much, because it's leading to your liberation. It's leading to your ability to have more intimacy with people and yourself, and therefore more pleasure. Because what else happens is the body goes into 3 stages. Before we can get to pleasure, we need to be free enough and safe enough for that to happen. Otherwise, what happens is the body goes into protection mode. And so it can either block it so much that it's numb. Once we get past the numbing, that's full protection, right? Because it's like, oh, we don't even want to be sending this to your system that anything's happening. It's like in full shutdown. The next stage is often pain, because that's when we've awoken it enough and we're going, you know what? No, we're safe enough to look here. We can look under the hood. Like, let me walk us through it. So pain is often a sign that we are actually doing some really beautiful work. And we never want to override pain. We're never aggressively torturing ourselves or punishing ourselves. We're really talking to pain and letting it be present, but also being excited that that means that we are actively connected. We're connected to the truth. We're connected to her voice. So her pain has something for you to hear and learn from. And once we spend enough time there, so whether we needed to spend time waking it up from the numbing into the pain, we then move through this beautiful portal where we're into sensation. And from sensation, we can experience the pleasure. So I really, really hope that that has given just like some flavor to what the fuck I'm talking about when I talk about sexual healing. And I'd love to hear if you've had anything like that that's come through for you. It's just the coolest topic in the world, isn't it? Because everyone's going to be delicious and unique. But thank you as always, for being here. I have just announced the September portal dates, and I already think that there might be 3 to 4 gorgeous peaches already energetically committed. So that's us nearly halfway to being full. So that makes my heart very happy. But we'll be beginning on September 8th, and it will run for 10 weeks with a Tuesday night call each week, and then your content to work through and process so that you too can have your own sexual reconnaissance and awakening and healing crisis in the best possible way. So I'll be speaking much more about that here on my Instagram. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me. You can go to madswilliams.com and there'll be a contact form, or you can slide into the DMs, which honestly has been happening more and more lately, if you know what I mean, from the opposite sex. So I guess who needs dating apps? Just show up in life the way you want, hang out where you want to, and the right people will find you. Anyway, as always, I've overshared in a way that can I fix on the edit? We will find out. But sending all my love to you, and I will speak to you very soon. Bye.